So how have you been?
Oh, I'm good. I am.
Yeah. Are you in any
I'm.
more trouble?
Oh, me?
Yeah.
Would you like to assist me in the next batch? It's been a few weeks.
Well, I never want to get in trouble, but I do seem to get in trouble quite a bit.
But you don't want to be.
No, I never want to be in trouble.
Okay.
I've never been what do you call it? That sort of person that wants to shit stir.
A shit stirrer?
Yeah, I've never been that person, but I always end up sort of I end up being portrayed that way a little bit. I think because I get into a lot of trouble and I'm a little bit. I think I've got a smug face. I think that's what it is.
Okay.
Do you reckon? Do you think I've got a smug face?
Well, I'm trying to figure out your accent because the UK, from my point of view, the UK is just like basically the size of half of an American state. But there's so many different like
Yep.
textures of your language. You know, there's the Queen's English, and then there's all these little, not dialects, but different inflections and accents. So what's yours?
Yeah,
Maybe that's the smug part. No,
I'm from Essex.
Essex. Okay.
Essex is down southeast of England. It's near the bum of England,
Oh, okay.
like the
So
butt of it.
there's also Wales, which is kind of like,
That's the other side.
oh, okay. Okay. So you're on the east side. Okay. So you could probably see a Briton, kind of, if you peered through the mist of the Nile or the Isle. Channel. It's a channel.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Well,
What am I supposed to say?
France.
Oh,
Brittany.
France. Yeah, I don't know if we can see it. We can see Kent from where I am, but we can probably see France from Dover,
Okay. But
but not from where I am.
which is Essex, not Sussex.
Yeah, so Kent is at the bottom, and you'll probably, well, I don't know if you'll be able to see France from there. I've never looked.
Oh, really?
Have you been to England before?
Just through Heathrow or the airport, as I was making my way to Austria.
Ooh,
10,
that
10,
sounds
15
interesting.
years, yeah. It was a interesting time. Saw some good art. And
Did you? What
yeah.
kind of art did you see?
Well, I saw my first Vermeer in person, and it was like my eyeballs were licking a chocolate bar. It was so gorgeous. It felt so good. It was just this kinetic experience that I never felt my eyes being treated like that before.
Yeah, I know the feeling. Like there are some things I look at, or some things I even paint, that make my eyes feel good. And I've been saying that for years, and people don't understand what I mean. It does. It's a good sensation to look at something nice, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean that the sensory or the sensual aspect of visual art is really missing from the discourse or the art criticism discourse where we talk about beauty or the aesthetic and the abstract. But there's actually like a physical transference of pleasure in beauty. And also, if I saw something on Reddit, on the page, there was this guy with this crazy wart disease, and there was a picture of him, and he basically turned into a tree. And I looked at it, and at first I was like, well, that's interesting. And then I looked at it a little too long, and then I just felt weird, like I had this feeling inside of me that I had to kind of sigh out of me because it was really visceral. It wasn't just grotesque, but it was really just visceral. So, the communication, the sensory and the sensual aspect of just images are overlooked when we consider it in the abstract.
It's very powerful because, like, when you look at something, you imagine your other senses with it as well. So what you described to me, I imagine what would that be like to touch, or what would that be like to have on your body. And I feel like if I look at a really nice painting with people in it, or even without people in it, you put yourself in it, don't you? And you imagine what it's like to be in that picture.
Yeah, so the conduit of the imagination, like reconstituting or putting you into that reality, is really, really profound. And now that we're immersed in images so much, we can see that on a massive scale, like with the internet collapsing space and time. You see a video of somebody crazy acting thousands of miles away from you, but you're right there. You're in their head. You know, those crazy libs of TikTok videos are the stuff that we both deal in. You get into their head, and even though they're not a threat, you feel, you put yourself there.
You do have a reaction to it as well. Like, I think that's why everything is multiplied on the internet. So if you see something that you don't agree with, it puts that fight or flight response in you, doesn't it? You react to it in that way. I wonder what that was like before the internet, when people had to see actual paintings up front. If it was a painting they didn't agree with, would they have just like, what would they have done? Like punched a painting? You can't punch that if it's on the internet. You can't just go, I hate it. You can't just do that.
Well, but there is, what is it called? Iconoclasm. We still participate in that. We have images create very strong reactions in us, or political circumstances make an image change its properties, its social properties. And there's a lot of iconoclasm throughout European history. Especially, I studied that actually. My first course at Evergreen was just studying how political dimensions and social spaces bore down on the act of destroying the image. And I think we do that on the internet too. It's just we use another image, or we deface the image somehow, or turn it into a meme, or we bracket it in another context, right? Snark, perhaps.
Yeah, I feel like that's interesting what you said about the political context if it changes, because I feel like that happens with my art a little bit online. So the things that I am portraying in my art would have been completely meaningless 10 years ago or 15 years ago. And now the topics that I'm covering in my art are sparking a strong reaction.
Mm-hmm. I mean,
yeah, it's interesting.
The icon behind you of a dinosaur has a particular significance now,
it
due
does.
to women's what would it be called, like kind of the women's movement currently in Britain. All of a sudden, they adopted the dinosaur. I think somebody called them a bunch of dinosaurs.
Yeah, David Lammy said that women are a bunch of dinosaurs hoarding rights. So
okay.
That, I mean, I've painted dinosaurs before, but it felt different when I painted one this time.
Really?
Yeah.
Different in the intention, or different in the...
Different in what it means. I mean, when I've painted dinosaurs or put a little dinosaur in my painting before, it's always been cheeky. It's always been to put a little dinosaur in there. It'd be fun. But now I put a little dinosaur in a painting, and I know it's not just fun. It's got a meaning. It's got a meaning to other people that means something else to what it did 15 years ago. That's what I mean by it's interesting, though, isn't it?
Yeah, I just published, or I will be publishing right after we're done here, an interview with a friend of mine, well, at least a fake friend of mine, an internet friend of mine. We haven't met in person.
Fake friend.
No, I didn't mean fake, but like a simulated friendship we have, because we interact through camera and audio and text. And we dove, it's vocal distance, and we dove very deep into the iconography of our age, and how the image is overtaking the statement. The image is overtaking the word at this point, in a certain respect. And the image doesn't have the same properties as a sentence. A sentence can tell you something very specific. Language was designed to do that. And of course, you can be a poet or a prophet and stuff ambiguity in there. But an image, his example was a picture of an orange on a table, doesn't tell you anything, but you can start to have, there can be symbolism in there can be meaning in there, but it's not explicit unless there is a context around it, or a little plaque on the side that tells you this means that. But those statements, this means that, are in words. They're not in the image. And when art is politicized, or art is made for politics, it has a different texture or a different way of conveying sense or conveying meaning that doesn't translate into a policy necessarily, but it starts to cause affiliations, like with the dinosaur means an affiliation now, right? It doesn't mean anything other than a cheeky reference, or at first there was snark to it, but the women owned that. And now they dress up in dinosaur costumes and they harass people who are very frail in the emotions by standing on street corners, right? Because how powerful that they've become because of that group dynamic. So I'm just wondering your experience of watching your art become politicized or become imbued with meaning.
I've had a lot of feelings about that. I think sometimes I'm not quite sure where I stand with it, because when I first started the portraits of the women that I like, that wasn't initially a political point to be made. That was a celebration, and here's all the people I like who are doing something important right now. Some people might argue that is political.
Well, if they're doing things that are political, then
right. So some people would argue that's political. And before I did that, when I was like quite a lot more hardcore on the left, which I don't consider myself to be that hardcore anymore, I did get a lot of stick for not being more political with my art. And I used to make the argument that I don't want to be political with my art because it's my escape, and it's the escape from the madness of the world. But what I seem to have done now is jumped into it with my art a little bit. I'm still jumping out of it a little bit with the paintings. I see the digital and the painting as separate worlds as well. So my digital art is very much me praising and celebrating the things around me that I think are positive in a time that is really, really dark in a lot of ways. And then this stuff, my paintings, that is just another world. That is not this world. That's not where we are. And it's a nice place to be sometimes.
Yeah. Could you describe that word and feelings, or?
That's a hard question. I think it depends on the day as well. I probably have different ideas every day, but I think that world is a lot quieter in terms of the noise around us that we experience now with all the overstimulation. So I do a lot of detail in these paintings and a lot of fine lines and stuff, but when you step back from the painting and you look at it, in my opinion, it's a quiet space to be. It's very it's lonely in a way, but it's nice. It's comforting. It's a safe space.
I did a lot of I never pursued art too much, but I did a lot of doodling for a few years, and they became more and more ornate. And I remember one day I was in this cafe. I think I was a little stoned. This is back in the 90s. Okay. And I got myself into a corner where I had to make a very perfect line. And my imagination summoned, I think it was Picasso or other artists to say, okay, well, there's a standard there. There's this kind of like this background standard that it is possible, but you have to achieve that. I had to put myself in a position where I could completely control my hand, and I drew all my drawings with these specific pens, these Bic round stick fines. They don't make them anymore, but there's a lot of different properties to trying to make very specific shading and lines with it, and it's always kind of bleeding, so you have to constantly be wiping the pen. And I just remember the stress in that line, and then there was other lines where there was less stress. And I wonder, when you talk about detail, how does your body feel? How does your mind-body connection feel when you're engaging in something where you're really having to do it correctly?
Okay, there's two things. So it's very intense. Like, you can't come into my space when I'm drawing like that, especially on a painting. But at the same time, I think this is the closest thing I can get to meditation, if that makes sense. I don't know what the words are. I'm completely all one. It's all doing it naturally. Does that make sense? But it's not always been like that. I used to try very, very hard with my drawing and my lines, and it's only through repetition and painting for years and years and years that I just sort of developed a system. So I've got an order that things go in. I've got all my lines are drawn from this way to that way. Some people draw them whatever way, and canvas has to be a certain angle. And so I know what I'm doing. I've got a system for myself, and I don't see it as very different to the way people speak. So everybody has a speech pattern, don't they, and the way they say their words, and they've developed a system of the way they connect their words to their brain. It's kind of like that, I suppose.
Does, when you're in that space, is there surprises there? Is there kind of some sort of communication or journey that you're on? And
sometimes, I mean, I start off very in my own head, and sometimes I get more in my head, but it's not in a stressful way. And then sometimes I am just, what is the word? You're good with words. What's the word when people got into the pinnacle of their meditation?
There's a flow state is really common that is proto-religious. It can describe any sort of action.
I think it can be like that, but I don't want to say it like that because it's pretentious. It's incredibly pretentious of artists to claim that they've reached some sort of higher state while they're doing their art. I think it's a bit wanky, isn't it? It's a bit icky. But there is a little bit of truth to it. There is.
Yeah. I was, again, going back to my recent college experience, I went to Evergreen State College, and I decided that I was going to try to write a novel for every course that I was in. And one of the novels, so I was just always just producing and producing and producing, just like no stops, just keep on going. And I got into a flow of it, and I'd written a lot before then, so I didn't have to work on certain mechanics of sentences and stuff. And I kind of had the basic knowledge to kind of create that system where I could get into that state. And there was this one character that I found. I think she was in Sussex. Or Sussex. I think she was in Sussex. It was 1750s, and she was in a very early version of a madhouse or mental institution. And the doctor had told her just to write. And she had this way of writing that was tidal. It like this ocean where she would just go and go and go in this churning. And I got into this place where I started to be able to channel her or hear her. And when I tried to explain that to my professor, she's like, oh, so were you, she was trying to talk about that artistic, that romantic artistic idea. And there is a truth to it, but it's also, it's not like the character doesn't exist or isn't me, but there was some quality to it where it's ineffable, and I think it conveys itself on the page. I think that particular work, that however many words it is, that character just has a richness and depth to her that is far greater than many of my other characters, because I had a different relationship to her. Maybe because I was in love with her in a way, not romantically, but I had a sense of love for her that she was reflecting back to me.
Was there an element in it of wanting to be like her? In terms of being her ability to write?
It was like a fascination with somebody who didn't have to worry about making sense. She didn't have to worry about, because she was crazy, and so she just was, and her mind would go wherever her mind wanted, and she didn't have to tell a story. All the different things that I have to do as a writer, tell a story, make it make sense. It's just like that doesn't matter. None of this matters. What matters is trying to convey the rich experience that I feel, which is crazy.
Is it though? I mean, do you have to be crazy to not follow the rules?
Well, are there not consequences for not following the rules?
Of course there are, but like that made me think of when I was in school. I used to do my art's pretty much not changed that much since I was in school, and I'm very big on the thick black outlines on everything. My teacher told me off in front of the class, and she said, "You don't do black outlines in art. That's not art." And I remember, I don't know if I said it, but I remember thinking, "But Van Gogh draws black lines on everything. What are you talking about?" But then he was crazy, so he's allowed.
Okay, yeah. Yeah.
But then I think, do you have to be crazy to not follow the rules of writing? Or do you have to be crazy to not follow the rules of art?
Well, it depends on the purpose of the art. So with writing specifically, you have to make sense on a certain level for people to pay attention to you, because they have to
That's
get
true.
into a state where they follow your thinking. With painting, you have a little bit more wiggle room, but you still have to capture attention and hold attention before you can change or affect attention.
With painting, you can basically do anything as long as you can bullshit your audience into buying it. Right?
Well, if you're talking about like abstract expressionists, they put that all the way to the ceiling. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Yeah. But that bullshit and so there's pretension and there's romanticism about madness and creativity and the genius. And then there's the pretension of selling things, and which is really interesting, because I was listening to this short documentary on Larry Fink, I think his name is. He's the head of BlackRock, which basically is the most powerful organization or corporation in the world. They own everything. And what he did, because he had some failures over time, and after the financial crisis in 2008, he decided he went after fine art, and he made that a commodity where people would buy and sell shares in art, so that this art had this other value, this monetary value, that was completely distinct from art history, from the biography of the artist, even any sort of religious meaning or any sort of social meaning. It was abstracted into the realm of finances, which is satanic in a way, but also you have to navigate that. I have to navigate that as somebody who, as people who traffic in attention. Art is something that people pay attention to and then form a emotional bond. So there is, a manipulation or persuasion going on there, and then translating that into beans and mashed potatoes, or sausages and chips, or whatever you guys eat out there. You have
definitely not beans and mash. Oh
potatoes.
My God.
I was thinking of Helen Pluckrose. Okay, what is a cuisine from your city?
Well, I mean, people do eat beans and mash, but you ain't going to see me eat it.
Okay.
Jesus.
Okay.
I'm not a monster.
Okay, no. All right. But you still have to eat something. Oh.
Well, I mean, chips and beer does pretty good, doesn't it?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Wow. I want to visit you now. I just want to eat chips and beer.
Yeah, you need to go down the seafront and get chips down the seaside and have a beer.
Okay.
That's nice.
I'll have to make some art to do that. But you still have to... You have to translate that somehow. So what were some of the lessons that you learned in order to be a professional artist, or to be able to afford to make art?
Blimey. Well, I've been an artist for 10 years, and I think when I started off, I was just like swapping paintings for a bottle of vodka and stuff like that. I was a little bit, that is pretentious, but that is what I did in my early 20s. Okay. I don't know. I was a little bit wilder, I think, and I like to party, and I swapped paintings for drinks, and I went out, and then, I, for a period of time, didn't make money on art, so I've had jobs and stuff in between, and there's always been a wrestle, because when I was on the scene I've just come from, which was like the music scene, and it's hardcore lefties, and I don't know what else to call them. And I know people say, oh, you shouldn't say left and right, but let's just for now say hardcore lefties. There's a lot of frowning upon making money from your art in the art scenes and the music scenes, and it's not a good thing to do.
Okay.
You're a
They want it
sellout
to be
if you're
political, but they don't want
successful.
it to be monetized. That's an interesting dialogue. So it has to have social, political meaning, but it can't have financial meaning. That's interesting.
Yeah, there's a lot of frowning upon it, and then there's a lot of not so much goodwill if you succeed because you're a sellout, right? So it's a bit of a complicated thing being an artist, but
Yeah.
especially if you do make money, I still see artists now that talk to me and they say, oh, I'd love to sell my paintings for this and this and that, but I wouldn't dream of doing that. And I kind of feel like, why wouldn't you want to sell your paintings for a lot of money? Why wouldn't you want to make a lot of money? And they talk about it as if it's dirty, like you're compromising your integrity if you sell your art.
Yeah.
But if you want to be an artist and you want to be prolific and you want to make a lot of work, you're going to have to make a living and make time for this art.
Yeah. So did you yourself have to change your attitude on that, or did you just kind of naturally say, you know what, I'm going to do this?
It came naturally, but also there was some changes to my attitude because I do come from a scene where it's frowned upon, and I had to overcome that within myself, if that makes sense, because I used to feel bad for making money on my art. I used to feel bad for selling a painting. And now I realise that I'm selling a product. It's a thing that somebody wants. And it's not just a product like when you go to the shop and you buy shampoo. It's a product that has a lot of meaning and has resonated with somebody deeply. Yeah. And they want that and they want to keep that. And they've taken that part of a moment in time that you put into something. So you put a bit of yourself into it, and they've bought that and taken it home with them, and they're going to cherish it. And it means something else to them now. It's rehomed. Yeah. And in a way, that there's something beautiful in it.
Well, and I'm sure that the philanthropist or the art, what are they called? The people who support artists. Oh, what are they? I can't remember the name. Oh, there's a fancy name. The patrons of the arts. I'm sure that they receive pleasure in paying because they know that that's translating into you being able to do more and have a emotional connection. So the money from them, not in every case, but I'm sure the money from them is packaged with emotion. So meaning, there's more than just financial meaning in the money too, going back. So there's this exchange. And
I experienced that as well because I like to buy art. So I'm on the other end of it, where if I see a painting that somebody's done and they're selling it on the street and I love it, I'll buy it if I can. That's if I've not spent all my money on chips and beer, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. So when it comes to your art, you have paintings or what are they? Paintings or pictures of women? Yeah. You have the women pictures, and because I know some of those are digital.
It's not all women; it's mostly women.
Okay, yeah.
I've done some blokes in there as well.
Okay, well, what was you kind of describe what that is about, but what is the meaning of doing that, and then what's the experience of taking a face of somebody that you know of and then turning it into an icon?
Okay, I'll break that down into two parts. So shall I tell you why I started it?
Yeah.
Okay, so why I started it was because I felt like I couldn't really express myself on social media very well. Like I can, but it wasn't going down very well. Some of the things I was saying, some of the women I was supporting, some of the things I was doing, it wasn't going down. It got a lot of backlash. And I feel like instead of just going online and shouting my mouth off, why don't I just make art? Because that's what I'm good at. And so I did. And the first thing that came to me was, well, why don't I draw the people that I appreciate, who are the people that are important to me at the moment, the people that are saying something that resonates with me right now. And especially as we navigate what's going on in our cultures, because we've got similar things going on, I wanted to be able to put forward the things that I'm hearing and the things that I'm reading and things that I'm experiencing and see who else is catching the same thing. Does that make sense? Who else is encountering the same people with the algorithms on the internet? Who else is hearing the same things? Who else agrees?
Yeah.
You know, it's just what do they call it nowadays? A dog whistle, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what the cool kids call it, isn't it?
Well, the cool kids are the very smart people, depending on how you want to think of them. But so there was an aspect of community or community seeking.
Yeah, I think so. I don't think I realised that till you just said it, but I think that would be true.
Yeah. And there is a difference there can be cheesy ways of turning people into icons. There can be pseudo-religious things. And I think the problem with art, or not the danger, but the power of art, is that it does draw upon, it can draw upon very deep emotions. And it can surpass the mind too.
I underestimated that.
Okay. All right. So
do you know what I feel like I've done? I feel like I picked up a magic wand and I just went around pissing about with it and then done a load of shit I didn't mean to do. That's what I feel like I've done.
How?
I just feel like I was a little bit reckless and I did not anticipate how strongly some people would react to what I'm doing.
Both positively and negatively?
Yep. Okay. Yep. I just did not realise. Maybe I should have. I don't know.
Wow, you never know until it happens. The funny thing about being an artist is that you could die, never known. You could just be tooling around for years, never known, and then accidentally somebody discovers you or you discover something, and then you're right in front of everybody. Like, wait, I dreamt about this and I let go of that dream, but now here it is. Now I have to deal with all this stress. But what was it that people reacted to, and how did they react? What are some of the stories or tales?
All right, so the first reaction came from the scene I've just come from, so the musicians and the artists. They hated it. They said all the usual stuff. It's bigoted, it's anti-trans, it's a hate campaign.
Because it was, one picture was of J.K. Rowling.
Yeah, so that's the one they reacted to the strongest. They... a few people went online and made public posts urging everyone to mass phone the police on me because what I'm doing is a hate crime and I need to be prosecuted.
Oh, wow. A hate crime. Yes. Okay. Yeah.
So we got that here. I don't know if you've got that where you are, hate crimes.
People try to beef it up. There's forms of it, but it's not really a thing. But
I don't think it should be a thing.
I think it's a dangerous thing to have government.
I think it is, because a crime is a crime, right? You commit a crime, you get convicted of it, that's it. There shouldn't be another label to make it a special type of crime that's worse than all the others. We all know what crimes are bad.
Yeah, well, in the realm of art, I suppose, and I've had a little bit of wrangling about this recently, there is defamation that can occur, or libel through the caricature or other forms. So there is some sort of legal value in visual art, but in America specifically, we're pretty anything goes, though you can get social repercussions and consequence culture if you go after a racial group. That is a no-no, or accentuate people's racial characteristics in order to slander them because of the history of anti-Semitism and anti-blackness. But you didn't do that. Your picture of J.K. Rowling is a nice drawing of her.
Yeah. I think all my drawings are quite nice drawings of people. I didn't quite understand it at first, but with regards to things like that, the negative side of what's happened, that's I suspect is more personal than it is about whether or not I believe in this new spiritual religion. I think it's the people that have gone after me, I know very well, or I did know them very well. So, but there's a lot of people now going after me on the internet that just join in because I don't know who they are, because you know what it's like on the internet. There's a lot of fake profiles with anime pictures and trans flags and BLM and all that stuff, and pronouns, and I won't stand for bullying, and they're the biggest bullies going. So,
but so the personal consequences are much more valuable or meaningful than these public or pseudo-public consequences.
Yeah, I think so. I think they're much, well, I think they can be, but also I'm the sort of person that if if I get kicked for doing something that I want to do and it's not hurting anybody, then I'm just going to do it again regardless of how much you beat me for it. Does that make sense? I'm just going to keep getting back up and do it again. In fact, I might even do it more.
Yeah.
I'm that person.
Yeah. Unintentional shit stirrer that you are.
Well, it's not that I want to be like that, because I've spent a lot of my life very much trying to being a people pleaser. Mm-hmm. But what I've come to realise in my grand old age now is that there's really no point. There's not a lot of point to trying to make sure that people are not going to be upset by you, because somebody always is. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So I just got to roll with it and accept myself as who I am.
What did the negative reaction to the J.K. Rowling specifically drawing picture teach you about those people and their belief? Not necessarily like the personalities, but the belief system. Did that teach you or show you something that you were not aware of?
Yeah, it taught me the belief system that I didn't realize at the time until this happened. It gives people permission to behave in ways that they would frown upon in every other area of life, apart from in that belief system. And I think people enjoy it and they're getting power out of it, or a sensation of power. And I didn't realize that until this happened. So now I'm very sort of aware, and I'm still doing the drawings, I'm still doing the paintings, so it hasn't stopped me. Yeah. But it's made me very much more understanding of what it is I'm getting into every time I put a piece of art on the internet. Does that make sense? So I'm a little bit harder about it now. I'm a bit tougher. Mm-hmm. I don't really care what people say.
And so you've seen that people can act good when they say they're doing, or they can act bad when they say they're doing the right good thing. There's this weird kind of
but they disguise it as they disguise it as they're trying to save people, aren't they? They're trying to save them. They're trying to save their souls.
Yeah, or save them from exactly suicide is one thing. Yeah. And did you become aware of your virtues, your values in this, or say, wait, I wanted to do that at some point too. And even if you didn't, and I'm not accusing you. I don't mean to accuse you of that. But.
No, I did become aware of where I come from and where I'm going. So I've always grown up being quite very much politically on the left, and I've never really been heavily political until around about 2013, and I put it down to there when you started getting more politics on Facebook and things like that, and then I became very heavily political on the left, because that is all around me. I was on the art and music scene. Everyone's on the left.
Well, what was your issue? What was your method of lefting?
My method of lefting, being an arsehole, I think. Just basically dismissing people that are on the right or even remotely on the right. Anyone who disagrees with me, didn't want to hear it. I know I'm the goodie and you're the baddie, end of.
Okay.
And now
but you'd have to express that over and over and over and over again.
Yeah.
To exert that. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, and I thought I was right just because I wanted to be a good person and I wanted to do good things. So I care about other people. I care about people that are living in poverty. I care about education and whether kids get free school dinners or not. I care about all that stuff. I still do. It's just that how I approach people and how I deal with people is very different, because I have rehumanized people that don't agree with me, whereas they were dehumanized before. Does that make sense?
Your art was a process of rehumanizing people.
Well, you could say that. I don't know. Maybe I was trying to appeal to the people that were still in that mindset and show them that these are real people. Maybe there was an element of that.
Yeah, no, I think that's a very profound insight into the power of art, and maybe why it was reacted to so strongly in a negative sense is because they had, specifically with J.K. Rowling, had imbibed a narrative that this is a bad person, so much that she shouldn't even be considered a human. And then when you humanize her, I don't think you deified her, there's a difference, but you might have in some people's minds.
But that's what they say I'm doing.
Okay.
They say I'm deifying these people. But I don't think I am. I think I'm humanizing.
Yeah. Yeah, but there's a... When we go towards the positive, and I like to explore like the strange reactions, if there were any of a positive nature to your art, and then wrangling with the deification or the overhumanization, perhaps that would occur because images are so freaking powerful. They can destroy
really
and build up. So what are some of the positive things that you were shocked, surprised with?
I don't know if I've got anything that will shock or surprise you. I think most people that respond positively to my art, my favourite thing that people do is wear it. They put it on a t-shirt and they wear it, or they have it up in their home. I think that is about. I don't know what more I could ask for as an artist. I mean, that's the most positive thing you can get, is people having your art in their homes or wearing it out in the streets. And I think that's very brave as well in this day and age. It shouldn't be, but it is. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I don't know if I've got anything that will surprise you, though. I don't think anyone's messaged me saying that the picture made them cry for days or anything like that, you know?
Or they put it on their altar or something like that at home or something like that.
They've built a church and the centerpiece is my picture of J.K. Rowling. No, I don't think anyone's done anything like that. I think it's been it has been an extreme difference, because the negative has been up here and the positive has just been a constant, steady positive, you know?
Okay. Interesting. Yeah, there's this, there's a way in which art can also be really cheesy. There's these photos floating around of like the gender critical church, and what they had done, whoever did this photo, would take different people's faces of their heroes in the GC movement and then Photoshop them onto a specifically religious stained glass window. And it was just really cheesy. It's like, something's a little off here, you know, like these saints, these heroes of this particular cause. And I don't get that sense from you, but I think it's because you're reinterpreting it through your own style. And it's a conversation that's really in the moment, because your style is of this time.
How did you develop I'm quite in the moment
style, by the way?
With the digital art, I'm still developing it. I only started it when I started the pictures. My picture of Magdalene Burns was the first digital piece of art I've ever done, and the J.K. Rowling was my second.
Okay.
So I've never done digital art before then, so I'm still learning it. I'm still getting my head around
Is
all
the
this
Burns
stuff.
one used quite a bit in people's profiles?
Yeah.
Okay, that's the one. Oh, you're the originator of that. I did not know.
Yeah. So I just, that was my first one learning. I was just trying to figure out how to use the iPad. I've never had an iPad before, so now I'm still consider myself to be developing a style with that. It's not as solid as my painting style, which I've been doing for about 10 years. So it could change at any moment.
Okay. And then with your paintings, I don't even know how to ask this question, because every artist already has a style or is pursuing something. I remember a story of, is it Cezanne, the guy with the fruits? And he would just spend hours and hours and hours and hours and hours trying to get a pear right. And the pear doesn't look like a pear in the real world, but it has a completely, almost hyper real quality to it, because he put so much attention into crafting this thing. And you can really tell. That's the thing about live art. You can really get a lot closer to the human hand that had imbued that object with that amount of attention that is really lost.
With the digital art, you take that part out of it, don't you? Because that is not there. You can't, unless you get a print, but it's still not the same as having a painting and putting your hands. You can touch it. You can touch the brush strokes of the paint. You can.
Don't do that in the Louvre, though. We're not telling you to go.
No, I mean, you might get in a bit of trouble if you do that. So.
Side note, I just didn't want to get liable for telling people to go touch.
Yeah, but I was just adding a joke to the end of that, mate.
I know, and I was adding a joke to the joke that you had.
But you were like, we can't joke on my channel. This
We
is
cannot
serious.
joke.
I don't want to get
No,
sued.
this is very serious. Every time I joke, I get in trouble, and we are not here.
But you know what? Joking is forbidden in this new world, isn't it?
Is it?
You're not allowed to be funny. Have you not seen how comedians get treated and stuff? Comedians won't make any funny jokes now.
Huh.
Well, some do, but then they get cancelled for it.
Well, Andrew Doyle has done pretty phenomenal.
Oh, he's done very well for himself.
Yeah, there's a market for the brave, which
I think there really is.
Yeah.
And do you know what's ironic about it? There's a market for it, but people are scared to step into it, and I don't understand why. Like, not just from that perspective, but also from, if you value your integrity, then you'd step up, right? You'd say something, even if it's, so, even if 1 million people don't agree with you, you've said it. They're done. You've done it.
Well, there's a question of to what degree people are self-censoring. There's a question to what degree people are not.
And some people are told to. I got told to self-censor. Early days, I got told not to say a word about this because it would affect my partner's career.
Okay.
So, but I did not.
So you were
comply.
kind of threatened. Yeah.
Not threatened, advised, friendly advice.
Oh, okay. Strong.
But strong advice.
Okay.
But it was very much in the light of preserving my partner's career and not damaging his reputation.
Mm-hmm.
But there
Is
you
he
go.
like a medical doctor or a lawyer? Or
no,
something?
he's a
Really?
musician.
Oh, okay.
He's a musician.
Okay. Yeah. In the arts.
So,
okay. Yeah. And
so
that entire scene is controlled. The thing about this thing that I'm just going to call wokeness right now is just really interesting because it is a mass psychosis, or it's a mass
it really
belief
is.
system, and it really weeds out dissenters, or like I was going to say, not people. It's not just that people are cowardly or people are self-censoring, but maybe a lot of people just don't have strong opinions on this and just kind of go along with whatever. And it's like, I don't really have an opinion. I'm not a person who has opinions, which they are the silent, strong type that we always overlook, especially in the realm of discourse, which is all built out of people who have opinions and will stand up to this or that thing.
Yeah, I suppose I'm a bit more opinionated than I thought I was. Do you know what? I always used to get called opinionated when I was a kid. I never used to know what it means. It used to really piss me off. It'd be like, what do you mean I'm opinionated? What do you mean? But I figured it out as I got older. Right, okay. What they mean is I've got opinions and I don't shut up about them.
How have your so you said you were hard lefty and that you were acting asshole-ish?
I think so. I mean, I thought I didn't think I was being an arsehole at the time, but I think if I'd encountered me on the other end of the screen now, I would think that person's an arsehole.
So what was the middle
Probably.
step? What was something that awoke you from that behavior?
I just noticed things that weren't right, like with the women's rights and the trans thing. That started because I got diagnosed with PCOS, and I wrote about it on Facebook. And it was more of it wasn't a look at me, I got diagnosed with this. It was more of a women and girls, this is what you need to look out for. And because I addressed the status to women and girls, a man in the comments section started having a go at me because I was excluding trans women. And I said, well, you have to be female to be at risk of PCOS in the first place. And that escalated. That was a whole argument. It ended with him calling me a Nazi and saying that this is the worst thing he's seen since the white supremacists in South Africa. It just escalated. And I was blown away. I mean, I already kind of knew something was going on, but didn't know it was this bad. So it started there. I started thinking to myself, what is going on that it's okay for a man to come to me and be so angry that I don't think men can be at risk of developing an ovary disease? So that it started there. And there were other things too. Do you remember when Jordan Peterson was on the news because he was standing on that table outside the university shouting and talking about free speech? I agreed with him when I saw that. But here's the thing that happened. A lot of people around me thought he was a Nazi. So I stepped away from it a little bit, and I didn't speak up or say anything. But I did agree with him, and I didn't listen to him or look him up or anything like that till a few years later. And I listened to him again, and I didn't agree on everything, but then I listened to him some more, and then I started to agree with more of what he says and think about things a bit more. And it wasn't just him. There was a number of other people I've listened to over the years, because I like to listen to things when I'm painting. I also like to listen to things when I'm out running or when I'm in the gym or whatever. So I listen to a lot of stuff. And it was through listening to people that I thought I wouldn't agree with that made strides with me. And it started to make me think, well, why wouldn't I have entertained this argument a few years ago? Why? There's, I might not agree with it, but there are some points to be made, and there's a middle ground. And if I don't have a discussion about this, at the very least with myself in my own head, how am I going to evolve?
Progress.
I don't know.
Yeah.
So, I've made some progress somehow. But I think it's been through stepping into the world of things that I don't think I'm going to agree with.
Okay. With an attitude of at least openness, if not just like the willingness to entertain another idea?
Oh, I kind of agreed with things. Like when Jordan Peterson said what he said about free speech and not being compelled to say something that you don't think is true, I agreed. And I brought it up one time after a gig with some other musician, and I said about free speech, and somebody snapped back at me, well, you can't have free speech without consequences. And that was the end of the conversation. And I remember thinking, that doesn't feel right. But I wasn't articulate in my thoughts enough yet to be able to express that I think that's not true in all cases, and that there needs to be a bit more thought around that before just cutting it down and saying we don't need free speech. Does that make sense? So there's been a lot of things like that that have changed me, and people like Andrew Doyle. Andrew Doyle's been brilliant. When I started listening to him, I thought brilliant. I can't think of who else. Joe Rogan's been a big one. Absolutely fucking love Joe Rogan. And he got me through some, like listening to people like him got me through some hard times as well. Like really? I used to listen to him on the way to work at like 3 a.m. I'd get up, I'd go to work at about 4 a.m, and I'd have him on my headphones, sit on the bus, go to work, listen to him on the way home. There'll be still, because he's like 3 hours long, I'd go out for a run after work and still be listening to the rest of his podcast. And what I liked about him is his openness to people. And he's willing to have a conversation with virtually anybody about virtually anything. And I think I've always had that in me, but I stepped out of it when I became politically involved. I don't really think I was that heavily political, but I was in a way. And I think that happened through social media. Does that make sense?
So
I think
there was something about your political journey that made you feel more closed to people or closed off.
I think I was, yeah. I didn't think I realised it at the time because I was surrounded by people that agreed with me.
Yeah.
So I had an echo chamber, and especially on the internet and on the art and music scene I was on. And I think by stepping outside of that and realising that not only is that a small number of people, but that is not even 1% of the varying degrees of opinions out there and thoughts and perspectives and the way people think and how they've come to their conclusions and what have made them see the world they see the way they see it, So, and I've always been interested in that sort of thing, but I think I got a bit closed-minded, and I think social media has a lot to answer for in that way. I'm not going to lay the blame all the way at social media's feet, because you've got to have some sort of a way of thinking or personality type that would be inclined towards falling for that sort of thing. And I think I had that. I think I was in my early 20s. I was pretty pissed off at, like a lot of early 20s are pretty pissed off at being poor and the injustices of the society you live in and all that stuff. And you want to stand up and say something. But I don't think I was directing my energy in the most positive ways.
Mm-hmm. You said Joe and Co. got you through some rough times. I was wondering if that had to do with having to accept the fact that you can't be in a peer group that doesn't allow that.
Yeah, you're definitely right on that, and I didn't think of that till just then either. I didn't realise, but yeah, that is absolutely it, because I had already heard a few of his podcasts previously and I liked them, but I started really listening to him when I got cancelled, and I was going to work at 3 a.m. and all this stuff because nobody would buy my art anymore. And
okay.
So I got a job. That's what you do. If nobody buys your art, you get a job. And I'm not complaining about it. It was an all right job. But listening to Joe Rogan, it really helped me feel that there's a bigger world out there and there are different people. And I think it's dangerous to close yourself in a group and keep yourself in an echo chamber. And I think social media facilitates that so strongly, especially to people that are very, like, if you're an artist or a musician, everything goes through social media. Everything you do goes through that, and all your connections with people a lot of the time can come from that. So it's very dangerous. I made a joke on Twitter recently. I said that jokes, you're not allowed to make them. But I said that I had made a comfortable echo chamber for myself on Twitter. So and I feel that way. I feel like, am I echo chambered again now? Do I need to step out of that? Do I need to, and how would I do that in a way that doesn't create devastating consequences to me in my life?
Yeah. There's a trade-off. The relationship one has, especially as an artist or as somebody who is trying to make their way in the digital space on a professional level, is that it's all about audience, and you build your audience, which is basically an echo chamber, and you'd have to figure out or be lucky enough to do something either apolitical or polypolitical, something that you can go around into all these different groups and pop your head over here and pop your head over there. But there are certain people in certain groups who see you as violating the echo chamber if you pop up in that echo chamber. They accept you in that echo chamber, and then they automatically assume that you will agree with everything in that echo chamber. It's like,
I've had that already. I've experienced that when I did a portrait of Buck Angel, and I did one of Fionn Orlando, and that was not good. There are people that appreciated it. Yeah. And appreciated it for what it is, but there were people that gave me a hard time for it, and that got to me because that wasn't long after I got cancelled, and
you're like, oh no, not again.
Yeah, I was like, I didn't come out of that to go through it again.
Okay,
that's my mindset. I didn't come out of being cancelled and going through this personal transformation in terms of like realizing that there's more out there and there's more to people than you think, and that it's interesting and I want to know about people, to be shut down and told that I have to conform to another group. That's not what I'm going to do. I didn't go from one ideology to another. That's not how I want to live.
So how did you change your attitude when you found another cancellation opportunity at your doorstep?
Well, I just came to the conclusion that I've just told you just now, that I'm not going to go for it again. And you can put me through it. You can try, emotionally, okay, but people can cancel me again if they want. They can put me through it, but I'm just going to keep doing what I do and do it how I want to do it. I think that's the only way you can fight through having to have an obligation to be ideologically loyal to anything. I don't want to be loyal to any ideology because I'm exploring. I don't want to be tied down. I don't want to be told that I can draw this but I can't draw that. It's not up to you. I draw what I feel is right at the time, and I could be wrong in the future. There might be people that I draw today that I don't agree with later, and I accepted that when I started the drawings.
That attitude toward exploration or curiosity is maybe the technical term is openness, but I'm not really sure. Openness to new experiences is not the same thing as actively seeking them out. I wonder, what is the relationship with that and your creativity, or if that was what compelled you to begin to produce content?
I reckon there is a correlation between openness and creativity, because you've got to be somewhat open to be creative. You've got to be curious, haven't you?
Do you see, is there art that you see that is coming from a closed, not necessarily your own, but is there any examples of closed art or art that isn't?
I mean, what do you mean by closed art? Do you mean like politically closed or emotionally closed?
Yeah. Well, I'm looking for if there is an openness to creativity. What is the art that is, what's the opposite of that would be, show up in art? And I
bet there is some art that is,
I think if you look on the front page of Netflix, you'll probably see a few examples.
Do you reckon it's that sort of art is not very open?
Well, it seems to be the case. I'd have to
think about it.
Yeah.
I'd have to think about
in the narrative space, there's like, okay, here we go. There's going to have another lecture about the meaning of what we're seeing and watching and how I should feel bad, or this is the person that needs to be filled good for, or something like that, which is just boxed in that the narrative has to serve
wouldn't that be like motive on the borderline of propaganda?
Yeah, it's basically propaganda. So it's
I get accused of doing propaganda.
Okay, well, are you not? Could it not be the case that it is propaganda?
Well, I thought about this. I thought about it, and I thought I don't know if it's propaganda, because I'm not trying to sell anybody anything ideologically or politically. It's you take it or leave it. And I think if it's propaganda, you're trying to get people to emotionally and mentally buy into it. But then I thought about it some more, and I thought, well, every artist is trying to get their audience to emotionally and mentally buy into it, right? Mm-hmm. So I don't know. Is it propaganda? I don't know.
Well, there's layers of propaganda. Did you draw J.K. Rowling with like a globe in one hand and stomping on a trans flag and like with the snake wrapped around her?
No, see, that is where I would say my art is definitely not propaganda, because I don't draw like that. No, like I said, I think the humanizing people is what I was trying to do, and I don't know if that could be disingenuously classed as propaganda.
Well, if the subject, and what I'm thinking of now is just the picture of J.K. Rowling's face, right? It's just her face. Magdalene Burns is just her face. So with those two, what is the meaning of a human being is the question. How can an icon of a human being have a very specific ideological purpose to it? Hitler would be one person who's been subsumed by the icon of an ideology. There's probably Stalin. There's big dictators, and then political figures like Obama has a network of, and they even used a painting of Obama in his first run with hope on it. And it's a very iconic drawing of him. He's looking up over there. So that has a political significance. But when we're talking about somebody like J.K. Rowling, we can say, well, what does it mean to have a picture of J.K. Rowling? What does it mean to have a piece of art of just her face? Well, what does she stand for? Well, do we base what she stands for on her actions, on her books, on her political statements? And to what degree do we read into those things a standing that's not there, or that challenges a previous understanding or a narrative understanding? So making that, because she's a charged figure, her and Rogan and Peterson are very, very powerful people in the metaverse or in the virtual sphere for whatever reason, for a number of different reasons. Peterson's charisma, Joe Rogan's openness, and J.K. Rowling's previous brilliant, generation-defining artwork. All these cultural products are very powerful, and they're lightning rods for a particular relationship to certain discourses. And so they are seen not as themselves anymore by their detractors.
They're dehumanized.
Yeah. Well, even people who... I don't think Peterson, I think it's unfair to categorize people who follow Peterson as groupies because he actually challenges more people than he causes them to accept him. But he's got a little bit of glamour around him.
He definitely has. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because he said it himself, hasn't he? That people accuse the fans of being in a cult towards him, but he sort of justified it, saying that a cult needs a cult leader and he's not participating if there is a cult, so it can't be a cult.
Yeah. Well, it's like the life of Brian, He was accused of being a messiah, and he did everything he could in his power to stop it from happening, but it was the will of the people to have Brian as the Christ, right? So there's only so much divorcing one can do against their persona, especially when it reaches a certain mass. Speaking of that, on the other side of being an internet artist and having opinions, what is your relationship with how people see you online? Not just enemies and friends, but is there like this brand or persona that you're kind of conscious of cultivating or understanding?
I'm pretty much myself.
Yeah.
I've learned to just be myself on the internet, and I've had a lot of, because I grew up with the internet to an extent. Like, I didn't get social media until I was like 19 or something, but so I've learned to just be myself, and that's all I can do, because everything I've learned in the last few years is if people are going to hate you, they're going to hate you regardless.
Okay.
So, and if people are going to like you, they're going to like you hopefully like you unconditionally, not on the terms that you agree with them. But some people do like you on the terms that you align with their views, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Is there, you brought up pretension earlier on in describing the artistic process, and that's something to be aware of, but authenticity is also, can be a bee in somebody's bonnet, a search for authenticity or something like that. Have you been conscious of that, especially post-20s?
I don't know. I've not thought of it that way, but I do think the narrative around authenticity has been overblown. I think like people think that everything's about searching for your authentic self nowadays, isn't it? And people don't want to hear it, really. I mean, it's all me.
Okay.
People don't want to hear it. But at the same time, like, if you want to be authentic, you've just got to do it through your actions and the way you live.
Okay. And speak. And draw.
Oh, yeah, that too. And that too. Yeah, I think, like, with the internet, the way I write on there is pretty much the way I think and the way I talk. So something I would say would go on Twitter.
Yeah. There's a certain sort of person who behaves that way that I find most trustworthy, in a way where I just feel open to them. Maybe that's why I asked you to come on my show. Not just because of your opinions, but I sense that other play.
I thought it was because my amazing art.
Well, it is your amazing art.
I'm only joking.
And I'm going to have to put that in the frame. So I'm going to have to get some stills from you, if you will allow me. I don't know how copyright works in your country, but...
Oh, yeah. Well, I don't know either, so...
You're going to come after me?
Nope.
Doing that? Okay, good.
I won't come after you. Don't you worry.
Beyond the art making and the twittering, what other things you do? Did you say you play music, or you just are one of those
my partner plays music.
Okay. Yeah.
He's a musician. I don't really do much other than art. I mean, I was going running. I can't run anymore because I've got a shin splint. I go to the gym. I do kickboxing. Do a bit of karate.
Okay.
And that's about it. Everything else, everything I do that's not art is physical, because I don't like sitting around any longer than I have to. If I could grow extra arms out of my body, if I could take a tablet and loads of or clone myself 10 times and just have a workshop of lots of me's doing all my paintings for me, I would do that so that I could just go out.
Oh,
but
okay. Yeah.
But that's not a thing. I have to actually, if I've got a picture in my head, I have to get that picture out. I can't leave it in there. That has to come out. And then I do the painting, and no matter how long it takes, it has to be done with these hands. I can't There's no other way I can do it. Yeah. So everything I do that's not art, I like to try and focus on physical things because I don't like sitting or standing around too much.
Mm-hmm.
It's important for me to be healthy as well. I've not been that healthy lately, so it is important to me. What was you going to say?
Are you on the mend?
Yeah, I'm on the mend. I'm getting stronger now. Been in the gym loads. Been doing what I need to do. So
good. Over time, paintings become a world. You said that you mentioned that it was a world, but do you see
it is a world,
kind of a narrative or something bigger on the horizon, or is it just glimpses of one little thing? Is it just sequences?
Yeah, sometimes I feel like if you lined my paintings up from start to finish, the first one to the last one, there is a story there for me. I don't know if other people will see it that way. I think a lot of my paintings look like they could go in a storybook. Mm-hmm. It's got like a childlike or an innocence to it, and I think you could make a story out of it. And I thought about that. I thought about doing a series of paintings that tell a story. That would be nice.
Do you have a story that you want to tell yet?
I don't know yet. I'd have to write one, wouldn't I? Because I was just going to do it intuitively and see, like, start somewhere and see where it goes. Because I've done that a little bit before, where I had this world here, and it's the same world every time, but there's new things happening in it every time. So I feel like there's a little bit of storytelling going on, but it would be nice to make it coherent and make a series.
The hack for that, without words, would be to paint the same character, to focus on a character and have a character go through different things. Just so follow character. Whenever I would dish out writing advice, which I hate writing advice, but the thing is, just, you take a name and you put them somewhere doing something, and then you just follow. Right. And I think that translates in words or in images or anything. It's just that's the thread is the human or the entity, the main character through which everything occurs, or the world. You can have the world being its own thing too, but you usually kind of end up having characters in the world.
Yeah, you need a character, because then people can put themselves in that character, right? And they can see themselves go through it. Yeah. I like that advice. Thank you.
Yeah, you're very welcome. You are very far away, but chips and beer.
Yeah, down the seaside.
Yes.
If you come to England,
Brittany is there or not. Brittany?
Isn't
that the region of France that's across the channel? Maybe I'm wrong.
I don't know.
Okay.
I was wondering who that
really
is.
Bad right now. Brittany.
But if you come to England, right, come to Essex, we'll go to the seaside, we'll have chips and beer, and I'll take you kickboxing as well. We'll have a little punch out.
Oh, shit. Okay.
You will love it. I won't hit you.
Oh, that's fine. We'll record it and put that online, and people will find much pleasure in me getting my ass handed to me.
I'm not good. I swear to you, I'm not good. I'm not good at it. You'll probably knock me out by accident.
Oh, no. I don't want that on the internet. It's the last thing I need.
That would definitely get you in trouble.
Yeah, no.
No, I'm only joking. A chips and beer on the seafront would be good if you're ever on this side of the pond.
I very much appreciate that. And next time chips are just French fries, right? But because you guys hate the French, you don't call them French fries, right?
No, that's not the reason. Our chips are actually better than French fries.
Okay.
French fries are like this big. Yeah. It's the much bigger.
Okay,
much
chips.
better.
So they're discs, like rounded, curvatured, heliolytic.
Not always.
Rounds. Okay.
Not always. They come in. Not wedges.
Oh.
They come in different forms. Depends how the potato's been chopped up, really.
Okay. Yeah.
So you need that. You need to soak them in vinegar, and drink some beer.
Oh, vinegar. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Famous artist Birdie Rose, thank you for your time. It was a wonderful conversation.
Cheers for the chat.